my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I mean, everyone thinks you're crazy. I don't think you're crazy. People think you're a pedophile. I don't think you're a pedophile at all. I don't think he's a pedophile at all. The charges against him are totally false. They're totally false. Oh my God.
The Matt Gaetz thing is scary because he does not have a law background. He's completely unqualified, so he's just there as a stooge. And the only thing that's even more terrifying is RFK being at the head of Health and Human Services. Here's a video I did with him. People were really upset when I posted this video.
The vaccines gave my dog autism. She doesn't play with sticks anymore. She doesn't bark. She doesn't play fetch at all. The vaccines gave my dog autism. Look at her. She doesn't bark.
My dog's fine, by the way. I know you're thinking that, but don't you worry. And lastly, for the main event, we're going to get to Ryan Walters. He is the state superintendent of Oklahoma. He came out and said, hey, the Bible needs to be in public schools. We need to have prayer, all that fun nonsense.
I'm excited to announce today that Oklahoma is the first state to bring the Bible back to the classroom. Today, we purchased over 500 Bibles that will be in the AP government classrooms across the state. Bible just like this.
The Bible he is holding up in the video is the Trump Bible. He purchased the Trump Bible. So I went and got the Trump Bible for myself, and I started to speak to MAGA with the Trump Bible. Actually, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. The interactions that I had with MAGA with the Trump Bible were probably the most unique interactions I have had.
What do you think the King James Bible says about homosexuality?
This is sin. It's an abomination.
Did you know King James was gay?
That is a big misconception.
It's not a misconception. He was openly gay. He had a boyfriend that came to meetings with him and kissed him in public.
Someone told me that King James was a homosexual and that Jesus was an open borders, leftist, socialist Palestinian.
Well, that's totally incorrect.
Would you like to read the Trump Bible with me, ma'am?
My own Catholic version, thanks.
That's
not authorized.
Are you saying that the Trump Bible, are you blaspheming Donald Trump?
No, that's a Protestant Bible.
What? This is Donald Trump's Bible.
It's a Protestant
It's
Bible.
a what? How dare you?
It's a Protestant Bible.
How dare you? This is the word of our Lord Donald Trump. Have you read the Trump Bible?
This is the Holy Bible.
This is the Trump Bible. I'll have you.
It's got the Constitution and the Bill of Rights
The
in it.
Declaration of Independence. It
Yeah,
has the
right there it
Declaration
is.
of Independence.
Oh!
You know that document that Nicolas Cage tried to steal?
Yes, I almost have it memorized.
What, National Treasure?
No, the document.
Oh, okay. Much as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. How do we feel about immigration?
I think as long as you come in legally, go for it.
So if Jesus Christ were to come into this country legally, he would be allowed.
His family participated in the census.
No, they fled the census. That was the whole point. They were fleeing the census.
Jesus was a socialist Palestine immigrant.
No, he wasn't.
He was. How
No,
was he not?
he's from Nazareth.
Born where? In Palestine.
No, in
Yes.
Israel.
No, Palestine. Israel didn't exist in 1948.
You think I'm a sucker because I paid for the Trump Bible?
I'm on record saying that you're the sucker, yeah.
There's like a passage here, I think, on immigration.
When saw we thee a stranger and took thee in, or naked and clothed? What, I'm reading the Trump Bible. Yeah. You're walking away while I am reading the Trump Bible. This is an outrage. I came here to read the Trump Bible, and you're throwing me out. I can't come in to see our Lord Donald Trump because I have a Trump Bible and I'm reading it. Really,
I'm a veteran.
I'm reading the Trump Bible too loudly. Also, they told me I have to leave my gun in the car. I can't bring my gun into a Trump rally, and I can't bring my Trump Bible into a Trump rally. This is a fucking outrage, and I'm leaving this rally.
So what's the word?
What's the word? Oh, I'll tell you what the word is. I can't bring my Trump Bible into the Trump rally, and I also can't bring my gun into the Trump rally. This is a violation of my Fifth Amendment rights. They're not letting anyone in with guns. Okay, yeah, oh, if you have a gun, you can't come into the Trump rally. Don't worry, I'm not gonna bring my gun into the Trump rally. I have the right to open carry! You can't bring your gun in, just FYI. If you want to go in, they're not letting you in with the Trump Bible or a Glock, apparently. I'm reading the Trump Bible. I'm just trying to find the part where they talk about abortion.
Go away.
Can you help?
Go
Wait,
away.
no, I'm reading the Trump Bible, and I'm trying to find the part that talks about abortion. Can anyone show me the part of the Trump Bible that talks about abortion? I just saw one about immigration, and now I want to talk about abortion.
Numbers
Thank
5:11.
you. This guy was unhelpful. He just doesn't.
He
like
probably doesn't know the Bible.
Are you pro-life?
I'm a real Christian.
You pro-life?
Okay. Are you ready? You ready? You ready for the Bible?
Okay, yes.
Numbers 5:11 says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If a man's wife go aside and commit a trespass against him, and a man lie with her carnally, and it be hid from the eyes of her husband, and be kept close, and she is defiled, and there be no witness against her, and the priest shall take holy water and the dust of the floor of the tabernacle, and put it into the water. And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord, and uncover the woman's head, and put the offering of memorial in her hands. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that causes the curse."
Is this an abortion that's
Yeah,
happening?
it's an abortion happening in the Bible.
Are they telling you how to do an abortion? I mean, I don't like this Bible, okay? You know what? I just started reading this Trump Bible. There's parts on immigration, how to do an abortion. This book should be banned! Silly me, I thought to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do with this after the election? Here I was worried that I wasn't going to get to use the Trump Bible again. And lo and behold, the universe was like, Walter, don't worry. I'll make sure you get to use it for years to come. So now one of the biggest upsets in this election is white men supporting MAGA. The white men, I'm white. I don't want to say I get it, but I get it. Latino men, I spoke with a friend I made in Phoenix, Arizona. I didn't get it, and he was explaining it to me. So here's that explanation. You had mentioned that the Latino community just would generally support Republicans because they're very religious. There's a lot of the shared values, but according to you, they don't have those values.
Those values are kind of for show. Like, especially like coming up, growing up as, Mexican American. My mom was very religious. She was very Catholic. I grew up Catholic. My mom actually practiced what she preached. Like, she believed, in Jesus, and that Jesus was accepting of everybody. And so all these things that, Republicans say, but then they turn around and they, scapegoat trans people, gay people, immigrants. Those are things that to me are very unchristian. Those are things that, that's not what was taught. Jesus was the most woke person ever. So that's how my mom and my dad were. My mom and my dad were very religious. My mom and my dad were accepting of everybody. Growing up, I never had those prejudices towards any of the other LGBT communities, or I never knew. There's a lot of colorism in the Latino community. I didn't grow up with that because my parents weren't like that, and it came as a culture shock when I got older and I met other Latinos, and to see that there's all this colorism. I grew up actually practicing what we preached, what the church preached, and then the more I grew up, I saw that Republicans don't really do that. Republicans love to get elected on fear-mongering and telling you that, first it was, gay people are trying to get married and that it's horrible, and now that's acceptable. Now it's trans people because they're pushing.
They can't. It's being gay has been more accepted, so they have to come up with the groomers.
Exactly. But I remember when being gay was not. I remember in the 90s when being gay was still very taboo. And actually in the 90s was the first time that I met a trans person, and I met them because my dad was, we went to Mexico, we came back, and my dad was like, oh, come with me, we're going to drop off some stuff. And we went to this lady's house. I didn't know her. And my dad was giving her, these meds. And I thought my dad was dealing drugs. I was like, what the heck is going on right now? So we get into the car, and I was like, Dad, what was that? And he was like, oh, they're hormones. And I was like, hormones? Why do they need hormones?
Your Christian Catholic father
was giving this trans woman hormones. And I was like, why are you doing this? And he was like, well, because hormones are really expensive here in the United States. I was in Nogales, so I just bought them for her. You have no idea how these people are treated really horribly here. So, if I can get him for her, I'll get him for her. I had no idea what was going on. So I was like, oh,
it hadn't been stigmatized yet.
Exactly.
So it was just like, oh my God, do you need some hormones?
When I got older, I realized oh shit, my dad was woke as fuck. He was buying trans people hormones in the 90s. When this was still unseen.
That's
way before its time.
That's OG.
Exactly. So that's what I was telling people. My parents were very religious and they grew up, but they actually grew up with those ideals that you help anybody when they're in need. Like if you're able to help someone, you should help someone. And I don't feel like those are values that the Republican Party has. They're very like, oh, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and you should be able to do things on your own. But then when they need stuff,
I did an interview with James Tarico, a state senator from Texas. He is an 8th generation Texan. You know who this guy is.
Project 2025 is rooted in Christian nationalism. We all know that Donald Trump is not religious. I doubt he's ever opened a Bible.
That's him. He's that guy that you've been seeing all over your TikTok feed saying, hey, Trump ain't a Christian. He's a faker. Yeah. So I interviewed him for a long time. I'm going to show you some of that interview right here.
The Republican majority here in Texas passed some pretty extreme culture war bills, including the most extreme abortion ban in the country, no exception for rape or incest or the life of the mother, a bill to ban books in public libraries, a bill to whitewash history, including removing Martin Luther King from our civics curricula. So there's some pretty crazy stuff getting passed now at the state level, but there's still this opportunity because we're not quite in the same kind of spotlight that federal folks are in, that we can still come together and do some normal, good public policy for regular folks in our state. And I'll say we made progress on prescription drugs, and then some of that same coalition of Republicans and Democrats came together to stop Greg Abbott's private school voucher scam late last year. So,
oh, that was just terrible. I mean, like my family's corporation was set to get a whole bunch of government contracts from that.
Yeah.
And we really wanted, it was just a travesty that, first off, we were so mad that school is secularized.
Sure.
There's not a crucifix in every classroom.
Sure.
And, instead of, this money going towards teachers unions, we wanted it to go to private faith-based corporations.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are aware that there are like really exceptional private schools, right?
That's right. And there are actually some great private school educators who are doing incredible work in our communities. This is not anything against private schools. I think my issue, my issue with this bill is, and I think as conservatives, y'all will agree, that we shouldn't be giving our hard-earned tax dollars to private institutions with no strings attached. There's nothing conservative about that. We want.
Well, I don't know that you've followed conservative politics, my friend, because giving completely no string attached like deliveries of money is essentially all we do to corporate America.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the free market.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Paycheck Protection Act during COVID. I mean, like we will just FedEx money.
Maybe I'm talking about an older Republican Party or the original sense of the conservative movement, because
no, that's pretty woke now. Reagan is woke.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
but I mean, like you admit that there are some good private schools. So what if we took everyone in the state of Texas and we put them in those same 2 or 3 private schools?
So a few problems with that. One is that a majority of the counties in Texas don't have a single private school. So there's simply not enough supply to serve all 5.5 million Texas school children in the state of Texas. Second, private schools can deny admission to any kid for any reason they want. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't want to interfere with private schools. Now, if they start taking taxpayer dollars, then we have to start having some kind of accountability for those taxpayers. But as it stands, private schools can deny admission to any kid. So it's not really school choice. It's the school's choice, because the school gets to pick who comes and who goes. And honestly, I'm a former teacher, so I know that you can really get whatever results you want if you can pick the kids, right? If you can just pick the highest performing kids, your results are going to look better. And so, there's
that's why charter schools are just doing so great. Yeah. I mean, all of the charter schools that my family's corporation runs, it's perfect. Yeah. There's sort of these kind of people that are like, and they're going to bring the test scores down. So we kind of, we don't kick them out per se. We just sort of, kind of isolate them, harass the parents a little bit until they leave the school.
I mean, you only take college-bound seniors with high SAT scores in those charter schools,
Yeah,
right?
and we recruit from
Yeah.
very upper middle class neighborhoods,
And those students who are already going to Harvard end up going to Harvard.
Yeah, it's a true Cinderella story.
Yeah,
Students,
no, it's great. Well,
students on
now you taught middle school, right?
I did, and I didn't teach in a charter or a private school. I taught in a traditional public school in San Antonio ISD. I taught on the west side of the city, which is a beautiful, historic Mexican American neighborhood, and it's also one of the poorest zip codes in the state of Texas. And so my students, they struggled every day to overcome poverty and racism and systems that were designed to hold them and their families and their neighborhood back. And so I saw firsthand, how these unjust systems, whether it's an inequitable education system or a broken criminal justice system or an unfair healthcare system, conspire to hurt poor and working class people in the state of Texas. And that's part of what motivated me to run for office and what motivates me to fight back against these voucher scams, because all it's going to do is take those hard-earned tax dollars out of our public schools that are already underfunded as we speak, and giving them to wealthy families on the other side of town so they can get a discount on their private school.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that it's only 75 to 85% of vouchers go to wealthy people who are already in private school.
Only is doing a lot of work in that sense. Yes, yeah, it's the vast majority of the funding for these programs in states that have tried these scams. It goes to wealthy families who are already sending their kids to private school. So essentially, it's a transfer of wealth from the bottom to the top. You're taking money from poor kids and giving it to rich kids. And as a Christian,
Yes,
I don't think anything can
Thank
be
you.
any more
Thank you. Yeah. So that's actually a good selling point. I'm going to tell my family's
Yeah, we can be
corporation
You
to
can use that.
use that in their branding.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're looking for because they're
pouring up.
they're trying to brand
Sure.
charter schools, and I think you put it very succinctly.
And I do want to clarify, I know your family corporation, your mom and pop corporation runs a charter school. At least public charter schools have to follow the same state accountability standards. The kids have to take the same test. They have to teach the curriculum that's decided on by elected officials. There is no safeguards like that in the private schools. There is no democracy, no transparency, no accountability for those taxpayer funds. So there are a lot of problems with our charter school system, but it's nothing compared to the problems with the private school voucher scam.
Well, listen, I mean, to that point, once the Republicans get into power, our plan is to get rid of the Board of Education, and then we can, focus on making sure that these schools don't have to follow these, safeguards, as you were saying.
Sure. Well, we fought a revolution in this country about taxation without representation. And it's not just parents who pay for public schools. We all pay for public schools, whether we pay for it directly through property taxes, if you're a property owner, or you pay indirectly through your rent or your sales taxes. And so all of us should have some kind of safeguards, some kind of accountability to make sure that our hard-earned money is being spent to educate kids. And so that's all I'm asking for. And I think it's what most old school conservatives would ask for, is that basic taxpayer accountability.
Despite the disappointment of Kamala Harris's election loss, there is still cause for hope and progress in this country. One very positive victory is reproductive rights. 7 out of 10 abortion rights measures passed in state elections, showing that even amid setbacks, these rights continue to gain broader support across the nation. This progress highlights the importance of having clear, factual information and access to factual news sources to uncover these rays of hope. I found out about this good news thanks to Ground News. Ground News is an amazing platform I use that brings together reporting from over 50,000 outlets worldwide, so you can stay fully informed and even discover important stories that you might have missed. Check it out for yourself at ground.news/Walter. So how did the news get here? Well, ad-driven algorithms have created echo chambers where neither side shares the same facts. Media bias affects everything, from what events receive coverage to how those events are framed, making it nearly impossible to rely on a single news source, or even several, for a well-rounded view of important issues. Ground News helps you cut through these echo chambers by giving you a full balanced picture, empowering you to discover diverse perspectives and stories that might otherwise go unnoticed. This increases your facility to engage in meaningful, constructive dialogue with people that don't agree with you, a skill you'll likely need around the holidays. Positive change starts with being able to successfully and effectively dialogue with those around you with different perspectives. Showing empathy, finding common ground. If you're ready to get the full picture, change how you read the news, and equip yourself with factual news, head over to ground.news/ or scan the QR code on the screen. If you're already a subscriber, Ground News is giving my viewers 50% off the Unlimited Access Vantage plan. This is the best deal of the year, and it's only available for a limited time. If you already have Ground News, fantastic. You can gift it to someone else for 50% off as well.
All right. I mean, I mostly finance our school systems through my frequent use of scratchy lotteries. That is,
Well,
I think I'm keeping 2 or 3 schools open by themselves. I'm going to win one of these days.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about one of the main problems with school choice being capacity. Like, we simply don't have the seats or the teachers
Sure.
in order to give everyone access to private and education. But what if we took the money that we're already wasting on public education and use this to erect new schools and fill them with teachers that we could hire from somewhere? I mean, if we don't have them in the private sector, maybe we can get them from the public. We hire those teachers and we fill these new schools with these teachers, and boom,
Well,
capacity up.
so that idea is predicated on the lie that public education is failing. I again, as a former teacher, as someone who does education policy, I know that our schools are not perfect. I know that our teachers are not perfect, but I have to tell you that the data suggests that public education has been a transformative success in the state and in this country. Just think about it.
You say that, but I have it on good authority that kids in Texas, they don't even know who MLK is. So, I mean, come on. How good could public education possibly be?
You got me there. And I wish the Republican majority hadn't removed MLK, and I'm hoping we can put it back into our history curriculum. But,
Whoa. I mean, let's not, we don't want white kids to hate themselves.
True. As a white person, I don't want to hate myself either, but I do want to learn history, and I want to know the good, bad, and the ugly of what's happened in this country. And I think that's how you build a true patriotism, a true love of country. We don't want kids to have a puppy love for America, right? I mean, think about when you were young, when you were in middle school or high school, and you had puppy love for somebody. It wasn't a true commitment to them. You weren't seeing them in all of their good and their bad. You were kind of just, it was a superficial, a shallow love. And if we're not careful, that's what we're going to instill in the next generation. It's not a true, authentic, deep commitment to this country and to improving this union and making it more perfect. Instead, it's this superficial kind of appreciation for the United States. And we have to do more than that. We have to do better than that in our social studies classrooms.
I sort of feel like a blind, completely conditionalist. I feel like a blind, completely conditionalist love for our country is how you get nationalism.
Yeah,
it's very true. The way to manipulate people in this country, the way to manipulate citizens, is to keep them in the dark. And
fervent nationalism, like
that's right.
America first.
America first.
Yeah,
and last.
That's right. Yeah, and I think if your goal is to manipulate Americans to achieve some kind of political end, then you don't want to teach real history. You don't want to fund public education to where we teach children to think for themselves. That's the last thing you want. But I still think most Americans, whether they're Democrats or independents or Republicans, still believe in the project of public education because it's necessary for the functioning of a healthy democracy.
Yeah. So I think, you're talking about puppy love in middle school. I think my first love in middle school was the flag. I sort of had a puppy love thing. It got kind of weird sometimes.
Yeah.
And
it's true. When they said the Pledge of Allegiance,
right.
he stood at attention, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, let's get, forget all this public education stuff and health care, all this woke liberal stuff. Let's talk about things like, the border.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it exists.
this is an issue I care a lot about. Obviously, as an eighth generation Texan, my family is from Laredo, Texas, which is on our southern border. So I know this issue personally. And what frustrates me to no end is that demagogues like Donald Trump want to campaign on this problem rather than solve the problem. We had a bipartisan border security bill in the U.S. Congress. Not a perfect bill. I had some problems with that bill, but at least it was a start in fixing this issue, which can be fixed. And Donald Trump urged Republican lawmakers not to pass the bill on this issue that he complains about every single day on the campaign trail. He had an opportunity to help make tangible progress toward a solution in our immigration system, and he did the exact opposite. So what I can deal with good faith disagreement about solutions to our immigration system. What I can't deal with are politicians like Donald Trump or Greg Abbott who want the problem more than they want the solution. It's kind of political pandering at its worst.
It's not like Greg Abbott is doing nothing, though. He's putting up an American Ninja Warrior course at the on the river. There's
and he's
barbed wire,
and he's drowning
alligators.
He's drowning mothers and children in the Rio Grande. We
Right.
have
So don't say he's not doing anything.
that is something. I think that is contrary to our values as Americans and is a violation of human rights. And I think most Texans would agree, especially because we know that doesn't solve the issue. Right? Think about it. These are moms who put their babies on their back and traveled more than 2,000 miles, dodging traffickers, evading cartels, trekking through jungles and deserts, fleeing the only home they've ever known. And to think that some razor wire is going to deter them, we're underestimating a mother's love. And what we know works is providing more legal pathways for folks to enter the country the right way. Right now, there is no right way to enter this country because it takes you more than 20 years if you try to go through our broken system. So the single best way to solve the problem at our southern border is to create more pathways for folks to come here and work and contribute to our economy and our country. I mean, immigration is a positive. It always has been for the United States. And if we bring folks here to do the jobs that Americans don't want to do, we're going to grow our economy, we're going to reduce inflation, and we're going to ensure that the United States is a superpower in the century to come. And so I think we've got to get to a point where we make it easier for folks to immigrate to this country legally. And that's the single best way to solve
Well,
the
here's the
problem.
thing. The other thing is, right now, the Democrats, it's a plot basically to bring over all these undocumented immigrants and these migrants and then give them a voter ID card so they could help steal the election.
I've heard these kinds of conspiracy theories before, things like white genocide or the Great Replacement theory. This is not just a political talking point. This has real world impacts. There was a young man in North Texas who heard Donald Trump and Greg Abbott talking about this invasion from our southern border, and he, as an impressionable young man, decided to take matters into his own hands, and he took an AR-15, traveled to El Paso, Texas, and massacred 20 people in a Walmart parking lot. So this kind of rhetoric has a real world impact, and it endangers not just migrants, but it endangers American citizens like the ones in that parking lot in El Paso. And I'll just say that the best way you can debunk this myth is that a lot of immigrants are conservative. They're socially conservative. They're culturally conservative. Many of them are economically conservative. A lot of them are small business owners. These immigrant populations, if they eventually become citizens of the United States, are a prime target for the Republican Party if they would just appeal to them and try to earn their votes rather than demonizing them and calling them animals and calling them criminals and saying that they poison the blood of our country.
What would we have to run on?
Well, I think the Republican Party, if it returns to its conservative roots, has a lot to run on. I think there is an appetite in this country to conserve our institutions, conserve our traditions, conserve our environment. right? I think take a page out of Teddy Roosevelt's book, take a page out of Abraham Lincoln's book. Those are
That's
the
right.
Republicans that I would.
Yeah, he was when he was talking about how we can't. Teddy Roosevelt, when he was talking about how we cannot let these parts of the country just be infested with these Indians and stuff.
I would. Yeah, I would definitely.
Even in jest, you take that back. Close your whore mouth. You keep Teddy out of there. That's a big if. The return to classic conservatism is a big if. We're gonna pause for 2 seconds. There we go. Thank you. Gonna take that again. So that's a pretty big if. In the meantime, have you considered the fact that Democrats love to say that these immigrants are doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do? What if one accidentally starts getting like a great finance job at Goldman Sachs?
I taught a lot of undocumented students when I was a teacher in San Antonio. And I don't mean to stereotype, but a lot of those undocumented students were my best students. And I think the reason is because those kids have such a deep appreciation for America, more than I did when I was growing up, more than a lot of native-born kids have grown up, because we take it for granted. And these kids whose parents have sacrificed so much to get them here know what a blessing it is to live in this country. And so they worked twice as hard as I did when I was in school, and some of my native-born students did, because they understood what the American dream is in their bones. And those are the exact kind of people we want to bring to this country. They're going to help us grow our economy. They're going to revitalize industries across our state and our nation. And they're going to make us better, like they always have, right? You wouldn't be talking to me with my last name, Tarico, if we hadn't had Italian immigrants coming to this country in the early 20th century. And that's true of so many of our families. We know immigration personally.
I agree. We wouldn't have to be dealing with you if it wasn't for the Italians and letting them in here.
If only we had Donald Trump building a wall around the Atlantic.
Right.
Yeah. It was, so I agree. The Italians did a lot of damage to this country.
Okay. Lightning round on immigration, though, because I feel like, there's a lot of fancy talk. So cutting right to it.
Sure.
Immigrants.
Yeah.
Do they pay taxes or not?
They do. They actually, they're a net gain because they pay a lot in taxes and
okay. Do they commit more crimes than a normal American?
They don't. And in fact, they commit less crimes because if you think about it, a lot of these folks are trying to come here to work, and they don't want to raise any flags to endanger themselves or their families. And so they tend to be much more long.
Okay. And do they vote? Is this why Biden won the 2020 election?
They don't vote, and because of protections that we have in our election system, there's no possible way for them to vote. And
but what about them getting access to social services?
The reason that they tend to be a net benefit is because they pay so much in taxes and don't get as many social services that they're not even eligible for. In fact, some folks think that the reason Social Security has been able to kind of right the ship financially in recent years is because of undocumented immigrants who are able to kind of buoy our economy without taking advantage of some of these services that are offered by the federal government.
Okay, see, this is no good. I don't think we can use any of this because this is making it seem like the Republican case against the southern border is just all hype and no substance.
Well, here's what I'll say. I do think there's always a kernel of truth in what anyone in politics says, even when it's covered in racism and in pandering and lies. The kernel of truth is that we do have a broken immigration system, and we do have a problem on our southern border. And I want desperately to fix that. I'm against chaos on our southern border because I care about our border communities. I care about my state. I care about my country, and I care about migrants. So I don't want chaos. But what I do know is that the only way to truly fix this is not by drowning kids in the Rio Grande. That doesn't do anything, and it tarnishes our legacy as a country of immigrants. The only way to solve this problem is to create.
It's a lava moat. I get it. A moat of molten lava across the southern border.
Alligators. Right. Yeah. Some of this is pretty comical when the solution is staring at us in the face and that is create more legal pathways for folks to come here and work and contribute. And that way we can stop any criminals or cartel members from coming into our country. We're all in agreement that we don't want to allow folks who are dangerous to come into the United States. The best way to fix that is by creating a safe, legal, orderly process where we can separate the folks who want to come and raise a family and contribute to our economy and those who want to do us harm.
But what about fentanyl?
You know, this is something I care a lot about. I actually passed a bill last year through the legislature to fight fentanyl overdoses, particularly on school campuses. We passed a bill to put Narcan, which is an opioid reversal medication, on every school campus in the state of Texas, and it has already saved dozens of lives of young people across our state. So I care a lot about this.
I don't know about that.
And
I mean,
Yeah, doesn't this just reward people for doing fentanyl by
making sure they don't die?
Yeah.
Well, and here's the fact that a lot of people don't know is that 93% of the fentanyl that enters our country comes through the ports of entry, meaning it is coming in right under our nose. And because we haven't modernized those ports, we can't detect it and stop it. So I've instead of drowning kids in the river, instead of separating children from their parents, instead of putting kids in cages, why don't we modernize our ports of entry so we can stop the influx of fentanyl into our country? Why don't we create this safe, orderly immigration system so we can more easily stop folks who are trying to traffic drugs? I mean, this is an issue that can be solved if we come together and actually try to solve it rather than pander and grandstand and score political points.
You know, it just sounds like he wants to spend our tax dollars on things that would actually solve issues. Like,
well, I mean, I was a teacher. I don't come from family money, so I work hard for those dollars that I send to the government, and I want it to be used wisely to solve problems and make life better for the American people and for Texans. And hopefully that's
so to recap, you're a former middle school teacher who wants money to go to middle school teachers.
Sure.
You are a diabetic who wants government money to cap the price of insulin.
It's true.
You don't want a lava moat, even though it's proven that cartels cannot cross that.
I mean, and walls. I mean, listen, it's like I've never known anyone that's gotten over, around, or through a wall in my entire life.
They closed the door in his grandfather's house, and he died in there.
Yeah,
he could not get out.
Condolences to your grandfather. What I would suggest is, if your family corporation is struggling with your charter schools, is you should partner with the cartels to provide some of these 12-foot ladders for the 10-foot wall, because I think you'd make a lot of money from those cartels who continue to find ways to evade Donald Trump's stunts at the southern border.
Yeah. Oh, actually, one more thing on the border. You should tell them about your family's
Oh my
experience.
God. Okay, so here my personal experience with the southern border. So my family owns property near the border,
okay.
And these illegal. I call them illegals. You call them migrants. They cross the property to enter into the country. And, they're coming across my property, so I defend myself. I shoot at them.
Wow.
And I'm just really worried that if Biden gets reelected, that the Democrats are going to prosecute me, because I think I might have hit, a few of them. I mean, just last week, I thought I hit someone.
Yeah, I would definitely say that Joe Biden is the law and order candidate in this race. And if you shoot at innocent people, you're probably going to be prosecuted as you should. And I think if you want to be able to shoot at people without any consequences, Donald Trump is probably your candidate.
That's a great soundbite for Donald Trump.
Jesus Christ, though. Like, is that so hard? He has said that to like 24 active lawmakers.
I said this to Paul Gosar.
Oh.
And he's like, "Oh, I bless you." And it's like, "Oh, you're keeping America strong." Is that so hard?
So I said this to Paul Gosar. His response was, "Say a prayer. This country needs people like you."
Wow.
And I said this to him without cameras, just shook his hand and said, I said this to Blake Masters, Paul Gosar. I went through CPAC. I said this to people at CPAC. This was not a crazy thing. I said this to people at a Trump rally in Michigan. I actually don't have footage I don't have footage of someone saying, Andy Biggs, a representative Andy Biggs was the only human being that was just like, he was like, I don't want to talk to you. You're insane.
Good for him. I mean, y'all may know that Greg Abbott has insinuated that we should start shooting migrants at the border, that we should shoot women and children on site. I mean, this is really scary terrain that we're entering as a country, and you pair that kind of language with some of the rhetoric Donald Trump is using, calling migrants animals and saying that they're poisoning the blood of our country. We've seen this movie before in world history.
I gotta be honest. I need a mental health break. I can't. I'm gonna go see my girlfriend and go on a trip with my partner, and for I don't know, 12 days, 13 days, I don't know. For some of us, a mental health break is putting our phone down for a few hours and pretending like that all of this isn't about to burn down. Yeah. Until next time, everyone.